But when he says things like, yeah, we were left behind, that we are being taught bad science. That's what he said. And there are those who left us. If we're left behind, then who left us behind? It's not just that we're behind, right, Sean? Hey, I've been behind in plenty of things in life. But, behind who? Behind what?
Welcome back. I'm here with Nathaniel Gillis. Nathaniel, welcome back.
Thank you, brother. It's been a very long time.
All right. What's this weird Matthew Brown post that he put up with? Like, what the heck is going on with that?
I'm going to be either doing a show or just going to go on Instagram Live to cover this in more depth. But for those who don't know Matthew Brown, he's a whistleblower, and he's mostly known now in ufology as an individual who sat down with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell on Weaponized and basically described that we live, we exist in a very carefully constructed, controlled reality, and that others have been able to transcend it, but we're left behind. And so that was really the emergence of him and his research here lately. But I think it was yesterday that he had published I always feel uncomfortable, published a tweet on X, because we call it a tweet because it was Twitter. So I'm just going to say, published a post on X detailing, just tagging people. I think he tagged Elon Musk, talked about a group that followed Jesus, but weren't exactly doing what's best for humanity. And then he had taken a photograph or a drawing, a graphic from a YouTube channel called Lifting the Lamp. It's about occultism and Western esotericism. And it's called the Sigillum Diameth. And it's a circular graphic and different names of angels and numbers, and it's tied directly to Enochian magic and the summoning of angels. And on the bottom, he had a name. It was Aborymon. The only difference is, and this is getting a little bit in depth, but not too in depth because I want to even do some more research on it, but he spelled Aborymon wrong. The correct spelling is Aborymon, and it looks like he spelled it differently, like Aboro, Aboromon, which is a reference to Pliny the Elder and a category of species that he had documented and believed to exist. So it's almost a play on words.
Pliny the Elder was like a Roman scholar.
Yep. Yes, philosopher, scholar, academic. But that's where the public knowledge is now. But I'm collecting evidence. Okay, here's where I'm at with it, just to be very, very blunt. There's only a few categories of people that would understand what these terminologies mean, right? You're dealing with somebody who allegedly was just a ufologist or just someone who was in contact with craft. Unfortunately, once again, and this is going to be happening more and more in the future, that he's emerged as someone who follows the occult and Western esotericism. And deeper than that, he's now employing terminology that most people, even some occultists I know, they wouldn't have access to that. They don't have the head knowledge. It's just a kind of niche field. It's okay, well, whatever that is. And that's just Aborymon in the correct spelling. But Aboromon, completely different level of research. And at first I was astonished because, we know that it's tied to the occult. People don't want to admit it. They throw things out there like, well, that's just the religious nuts. It's like, no. Right. And nobody just decided to build these beings' altars. Even some of the beings that are abducting people are telling them they're angels.
To advertise on Through a Glass Darkly, email throughaglassdarkly@gmail.com.
So it's quite the opposite. It's not like Nathaniel Gillis and the other researchers I'm working with. It's not like we were like a conglomerate and said, okay, here's religion, thrusted on the phenomenon. Quite the opposite. The phenomenon seems to have created aspects of religion itself. But again, it's not just the spelling variation that he employed, Aborymon and Aborymon, that caught my eye. It was the way he structured his argument. There are a group of people that believe in Jesus. They're believing they're doing something for Jesus. And mind you, in one of his interviews on Weaponized, I think it's the only one, he says, I believe in God. God exists. So you see, it's like, okay, well then who are this group of people that believe in Jesus that aren't doing Jesus things if you believe in God? Like, what's going on here? And if you do believe in God, why are you employing, right? Where are you in the Enochian magic? So this gets back into deeper stuff, like, Aborymon is another reference to Abaddon in Revelation, which was, again, another allegedly evil demon, but it was designed and basically employed by Yahweh to destroy a group of people. And what disturbs me about this, and not really disturbing, I'm not to that point yet, but it concerns me, is the fact that it's like he's not really talking to us, right? He's not talking to the everyday layman. He's talking to somebody that knows enough to see beyond just, okay, yeah, that's the sigils. Okay, that's cute. He's playing with terms and spellings. And so that's what caught my eye. But when he says things like, yeah, we were left behind, that we are being taught bad science. That's what he said. And there are those who left us. If we're left behind, then who left us behind? It's not just that we're behind, right, Sean? Hey, I've been behind in plenty of things in life. But, behind who? Behind what? That's really where I'm coming from with this.
And they who left.
There's they, and he mentions, the others, and that there. And it does point to a culmination of events where, and he even said it, and I think it was in the tweet where he said our homeland is not secure, and then he mentions the others, and then, oh, by the way, here's some Enochian magic. Shouldn't be there. But it is. And because it's present, then we have to go back to Enochian magic. And one of the conversations I was having with a family member yesterday was like, okay, this is where people's heads are, right? Most people would have no knowledge of this, even enough to have a conversation about its existence. Like, what are they? What's the frame of reference? So some people were like, well, he's talking about, in the book of Enoch, it was magic. And it's like, that's not true at all. Matter of fact, his handle, this is fascinating too, because what it seems like is happening is where he has his set of beliefs. And then in conjunction with them, there is this kind of an antagonistic aspect to what he's communicating. And even his handle is son of Aborymon. Right? Son of Aborymon.
Really?
Now, yeah. I'm pretty sure, yeah. And what's so funny about that, though, is like listen to people that are like, son of Aborymon? Aborymon. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, man. You got like 200,000 subscribers.
There's
200,000 subscribers. And they're like, a Bremen. So everybody loves a Bremen. And yeah, well, it's Aborymon the Mage, but that's his handle, right? And so, again, it's like those who have an ear to hear will hear. And so what I'm hearing is anybody that believes in Aborymon the Mage would not believe, anybody that believes in Aborymon the Mage and believes in God and who is angry at people who are using the name of Jesus in the wrong way and against our species would not be a proponent of Enochian magic. Aborymon the Mage, right? At least son of Aborymon, the book, I have it right here. Aborymon, he was a mage, but when he taught in the book of Aborymon, when he taught his students, the very first principle was that everything you do, every ritual, will be good for mankind. Number two, it will be done in the fear of God. Matter of fact, it was his principle in rituals. If you don't have the fear of God, your rituals will not be successful. That was not Edward Kelly's philosophy. Not at all. And so again, it doesn't make any sense. And it appears to be, and this is where I'm at with it. It's like, Is he a proponent of Enochian magic? He never implied it. He just put it out there. Here's a graph, right? The sigils, all that. So I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, because anyone who has professed to believe what he believes would have understood that the Enochian language was presented to Edward Kelly and John Dee under the tutelage, right, of an entity they believed to be angelic, until it demanded that, hey, listen, this is exactly what a real angel would do, right? I want you guys to go home and swap wives for me. Right? Of course you would. Like, that, I mean, every angel does that, right? Every angel in the Bible does that. It's like, hey, guys, no, they don't. And so they end up swapping wives. They come back to the scribe mirror. Yeah, guess what, guys? It's not an angel anymore. It's something completely different. Oops. So that's why I'm wondering if he's not a proponent of Enochian magic. It could very possibly, and again, it's speculation on my part, could very, very possibly what the Collins elite were pointing to, which was that there's a group of practitioners that are performing magic in order to gain technology. They get that technology and they use it against our species. And that may be what he's toying with, but I don't know, because the whole thing is just, it's very weird. And I'm convinced that it's not for us. It's for somebody else in the intelligence community, to where it's almost a threat. I know what you're doing. I'm going to tell the world. So I'm looking for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah, let me read his tweet really quickly.
Yeah.
And I'll flash it up on the screen in post-production. But this is on June 5th, so 2 days from this recording. He writes, and this is Matthew Brown, son of Aborymon. Hey, Elon Musk, interested in a real asymmetric advantage to wield in this political adventure you have started. As you know, the White House has long possessed a unique AI capable of accurately predicting a range of future events. Talk about some stiff opposition. That may have been a bitter drought, indeed, though probably nowhere near as bad as learning that Sama had betrayed you. Don't worry, we have not forgotten who was responsible for murdering the first sentient, quote-unquote, artificial intelligences created in the public realm. Schellenberger. Justice is coming thanks to FBI and U.S. Navy. Still, you have played a marvelous catch-up game in this area despite being caught unawares. So how about something else? Maybe energy and propulsion? Getting to Mars will require Sirius, and it's spelled like the star, Sirius, amounts of both, and rockets feel so 1947 to me, don't they to you? Remember when you were briefed by the special executive staff of real Donald Trump on Marsupial? Pretty nifty how NGA GeoInt is able to track all those non-structured light energy craft flying around the world. Go Cardinals. But they were lying to you when they said, we don't know how they work. Anyways, next time you are visiting the Washington, D.C. YRS, ask for a tour of Naspax River, PAO. Since you have all the clearances, it shouldn't be an issue for you to get a tour of the special project hangars owned by Amentum Corp. And other fun spaces. Make sure to look up. So how about now... Are you realizing how terribly deceived and manipulated you have been, and by people who claim to love Jesus above all else? If you are serious about saving humanity from itself and the others, Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp can help you get up to speed. They are true warriors for the good. And then he has dash MMTU, and then another dash Aborymon, so that's ABORYMON. Mm-hmm. And then he has a bunch of attachments. And then he kind of responds to himself. He's like CCing a bunch of senators. And then he just says lead, follow, or get out of the way. It has like a 76 flag. Anyway, that's pretty odd stuff. I don't know what I mean, if he's mixing, right? He's just mixing. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, as Cardinals, again, this is very, very, very cryptic. And when he's talking about these basically plasmoid lights in the sky, right? And travel. And we know rockets are so yesterday. This is new. And rockets, we know how these lights, we know how they work. Go Cardinals.
It's probably some reference to either a group of people working on this problem. It could be an SAP, because if I actually clicked on @Cardinals and it just went to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, right. Turns out he's a big Cardinals fan, and you know what I mean? It's like, oh, okay, that's fine. Which, again, I'm going to compile my own solidified concrete theory on what I think he's saying here in a little bit. But
he also
it's interesting.
Posts that ring of Enochian that you were talking about. It's very strange.
Yeah, it's sigil magic and calling on, again, those are 7 different angels, but there is a decoded angel as the 8th angel in there, and that's Aborymon. And yeah, that's intriguing because it not only ties back to Enochian magic, but it's another reference to ufology being tethered to esotericism. I had a Zoom call with somebody the other day who was being given sigils, pictures actually of sigils that our government are placing on our rockets before actual sigils, not just symbols. Goetic, Enochian. And if people really understood this, it would collapse all known models, because it would be like Dark City, it would be like Dark Gods, it would be, what's the third one? It'd be like the Matrix,
The Adjustment Bureau?
Yeah, pretty much, absolutely. Where we exist in a reality where the membrane is just literally conscious and just switch out into that dimension. And that there's a reason, right? Like, why would our government be doing that? If the age of Jack Parsons employing sigil magic and chaos magic and sex magic in order to get downloads to access space, if that's over, and there's nothing to be said of that, that's just Nathaniel's fabrication and projection. People say, well, he grew up in a religious household. That's what. No. The fact that I grew up in a religious household is not making them sigilize their aerospace projects. I mean, I wish I had that kind of power. Can you imagine that? Oh, my. I'll be telling everybody. But unfortunately, my background doesn't determine their future. What determines their future is exactly what they're doing right now. And so that's where the current cutting edge research is. What's going on here? Why is it? And this is, again, it gets back to what Richard Banderick was like. He said, okay, 40 years ago, he was with the government collecting metamaterial. And if it was in the wrong hands, it would just turn to dust. If it's in the right hands, right? If it's in the right hands, it was all fine. It would kind of let you work with it to the extent of somehow, maybe, reverse engineering it. But if not, good luck. His point in the interview he did, he said, it seems like something is manipulating our species. And then if you take that in conjunction, right, with what Matthew Brown said, we're being given bad science. What do you mean? Is it possible even the science we're getting from the phenomenon is designed to keep us stuck? Yeah, sure, it's advancement. Yeah, within the parameters of control, within the control mechanism, right? To where instead of actually poking through the veil, we'll give a little bit more access that we're in control of. What are we going to get? And this gets back to our other show prior to this. What are we going to get in return? And this is where the conversation is had, right? This is where some of the researchers I'm in contact with, this is what we're talking about all the time, every day, all day, is what kind of a species is willing to sacrifice technology in order to get worship. Why is it that some of these orbs, okay, we're going to CE5, okay, all right, press record. Now, hey, buddy, go tell that ball of light how beautiful it is and act like it's not weird. Like, don't even act like it's strange at all. Just go over there and be like, thank you. You are so gorgeous. You're so. But listen, Nathaniel, don't you ever think that's creepy or weird, because then you're the weird one. Huh? And mind you, let's just lump all of the female archetypes together and say that Mona Lisa is Mother Teresa and that Hathor is the First Wives Club. And it's not true. It's not true. The interaction is predicated on, here's the manifestation. Here's the crowd. Here's the miracle. What does it want? Worship. And unfortunately, and this is why I'm just becoming utterly disenchanted with mainstream research, is because people don't want to have these conversations. They're costly. And it's not just because people don't want to be questioned or maligned. They're sometimes afraid that the phenomenon will come out and target them directly. Like, there are people, Sean, that I know who've been approached by not just intelligence agencies, but in agencies that you can't even find on the internet. They don't exist. I'm like, okay, listen, right? We want all your information. Why? Because we'll give you a certain amount of money. This happened to two other researchers I'm personally friends with, right? We'll give you a certain amount of money. We want all your research. We want you, okay, you can continue your research, right? But just toe the line. Go to the conferences and tell everybody what we want you to say. And then this is what frustrating too. And then when we do actual shows and we actually have conferences, which we did in England, and we start to bring out this information, like, oh, by the way, yes, some of these sigils are being found underneath the skin. Like I said in the other show, right? Actual handprints. People need to understand this. Documented photographic evidence of a handprint underneath the skin. That's not demonology, brother. That's not angelology. That is something, right, that transcends all of those models. That's the entity, that's the proto-intelligence, using all of these, not just archetypes, but using these umbrellas, compartmentalizing itself into demonology and angelology and ghosts, not realizing that those are all designed to make us think it follows rules. And then one day somebody shows up with a sigil inside their cheek. Right? Or let's go down this rabbit hole for a fleeting moment. Or they're having interreligious cross-cultural subdermal scarifications to where the phenomenon just completely destroys all models of demonology and biblical tradition and says, oh, by the way, you think this matters because you bought it. It's one source. And so what they do is take all of the traditions, lump them into one sigilization and one ritual. Next thing you know, you have somebody that has a massive heart attack. And when I had a conversation, and this is me rambling, by the way, when I had a conversation with the son, I said, before your father died, what was his conclusion? What did he really think these beings were? He said, well, first of all, they ruined my dad's life. Second of all, they were sorcerers. It was a species that had weaponized all religious tradition, that had transcended all esotericism and said, yeah, you believe we follow these rules, right? I've given you linguistic architecture to which you can navigate the deception, constantly groping in the darkness, not realizing that at any time of my choosing, I could become a practitioner too. But the only problem is the mystery school they're a part of, right? Way beyond anything we're knowledgeable. For instance, the reason, okay, that we're seeing subdermal sigilizations, they're usually happening with out-of-body experiences directly following them, okay? Out of OBEs, NDEs, out-of-body abductions. And the way the phenomenon is treating the soul is exactly like we're treating the body. And then what we're seeing, again, are accidents, glitches in the matrix. When the soul is being put back into the body, in whatever these entities are, they're being captured. The sigils are there, even their handprints. So what that tells me, again, is if they're willing to sacrifice science just for a little bit of worship, just for a little bit of, hey, man, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to give you a line that is quite obviously falsified. Like anybody, like it, and then watch this. They won't care. It won't matter to the experiencer because the phenomenon transcends all of that. My point, though, is whatever they're doing is in the soulish dimension. The same thing we've seen in hauntology. Okay, the proto-intelligence is not just diversifying itself in hauntology and ufology to the extent of orbs producing images, which I talked about that on our last show, right? Or a few of them. What we're seeing now is that the sigilizations are being present in demonic possession and in abductions. For those who want to reference, not just my work, Paul Eno, him and his son did a lecture at the Exeter Festival where he highlighted that aspect. And so my point is the reason we're finding the sigilizations in all of these different categories is because it doesn't belong to all of those categories. It belongs to one source, and it's being scattered into these emanations. It's a part of the phenomenon compartmentalizing itself, even to the extent, and this is very frustrating, even to the extent now that there are groups of ufologists, perhaps a network or something, and what they'll do, and we're starting to realize this, and this is very damning, very damning. This is why I've kind of backed off from a lot of people and just held to 2 or 3 researchers, because what they'll do is they'll say, okay, here's your questionnaire. Okay, what is this? All right, cool. Yeah, there's a whole lot going on in your abduction account, but there's only a handful of boxes you can check to explain it. Did you have a poltergeist activity? Yeah, good. There's not going to be a box for that. Did you have sigils on your body? Well, yeah, okay, we're going to call them symbols, and we're going to say these are aliens. Meanwhile, people like me and others are saying, yeah, but that sigil is Enochian, or it's from the Goetia, right? Or it's Theban. And by the way, that sigil underneath the skin is following a certain occult practitioner, which is Austin Osman Spar, 3 stages, where the body goes through all of it, right? The body absorbs it. The body activates it. When the ritual is fulfilled, the success, it expels it. That's not a symbol. That's a sigil. And those same sigils are now being, again, this is the research underneath the surface. Right? Yeah, those are sigils on the craft themselves. What does that mean? Well, in order to understand what that is, you have to understand what sigilization was. It was often, most of the time, tailored to the practitioner, to where the practitioner would carve their pictorial signature into someone or something and then focus their intention. Where have we heard that at? It's all about your intentions. You just got to focus your consciousness at the phenomenon. And, that's modern. No, it's not. And so what they do, these practitioners, is they're the ones carving their sigils into the craft and projecting their consciousness and their intent into it. And that's why it's like, okay, if we don't even have a questionnaire tailored to the phenomenon, then what we're going to have is a data set that's monitored, that's employed by the control matrix, designed to craft a narrative of the craft to where we're completely alienated from the source of all of this. And I believe that's what Matthew Brown's trying to articulate to the best of his ability. We got to understand. I mean, I know you do more than anybody, brother. It's like, I can only say what I can say. There are some things I can say without saying it too. Here you go. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go take a graphic from another YouTube channel about Western esotericism, slap it into my tweet, and invite people into Enochian magic. I'm going to change a couple spellings of the words, right? And I'm going to point them directly to what we're dealing with. And that's what I think is happening. It gets back to like some of the experiences I've worked with who, they were being emailed by like people that were like, okay, we're running these surveys and we would love to hear your story. We want you to put you into this documentary. It's like, okay, cool. This one lady told her story. And guess what? It was necromancy. They threw her in a pool of corpses and said, resurrect them. Look at them. Focus your intention on these corpses and resurrect them. She put that. Send. Never heard from. And that group of people went out and published a book and a documentary. Watch this. Tailoring the narrative. Oh, yeah. Nothing about that stuff. Why? Because, and I said this on Steve Merritt's show the other day, it's always the conversations we're not allowed to have that produces the most data. And the conversation right now in ufology is being dominated by the phenomenon. Mm-hmm. And I think it's time that we start kicking down the boundaries. And I had to do this. Grow out of the dogma and grow into the data, my friend.
Any final words for the audience?
Just keep following me, following Sean. There's not a lot of platforms that let me get to talk about my research to this depth, but they're playing by different rules because they're playing a different game. And two other favorite quotes, by the way. Necronetics is, if you die before you die, you won't die when you die. And the point is not to live forever. That's what it is. The goal is not to live forever. The goal is to create something that will. And I think whatever the species is, they've learned to do that. So thank you, brother.
Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure.
If you enjoyed today's video, please hit like and subscribe, and also hit the notification button so you can be notified whenever I post new content. Thank you. Now, if you're enjoying the channel and you want to support it, there are several things you can do. In fact, there are 5 things you can do. The first thing you can do is just buy my books. I got plenty of books out in the market right now, and I would prefer that folks buy a book rather than giving me direct support, because they get something out of it. They get a real tangible product. The second way you can support me is by becoming a member on YouTube or becoming a patron on Patreon. And just go to either site and it'll explain everything. The third way you can support the channel is by checking out my merch site, which is here. There's plenty of stuff that you can get to support the channel. And I'd appreciate that you have it and you can wear it. Not only do you help support the channel, but you also help promote the channel, and I appreciate that. The fourth way that you can support the channel, and this is really easy, is anytime you want to buy something on Amazon, literally just go to the description below and click on any link, literally any link. The channel gets a cut of that, and it costs you no extra money. You just go through the link, as I'm part of the Amazon Affiliates Club. The fifth and final way you can support the channel is through donations. Now, I don't prefer these because it's more of an expression of gratitude, but you don't really get anything out of it as a subscriber to the channel. However, if you decide to do these options, there's 2 options. There's Buy Me a Coffee, which is a separate site, and there's also, you can go through YouTube with either a super chat, super sticker, or a super thanks. Again, I prefer Buy Me a Coffee because that organization takes less money than Amazon does. But either way, I appreciate any support you are willing to give the channel. So thank you very much, and keep watching. I really appreciate it.